I just love, me personally, I love to have an impact on people's lives. Like, it's more than any money could ever do for me in my life.
This is Elliot Reed. I'm the founder of the Revitalize Clinic, where we've helped over 16,000 people become pain-free, mentally well, and physically fit. I speak to head coach Danny Dell to gain insight and his perspective about the magic of Jiu-Jitsu and the effect that it has on joint health and longevity. Enjoy. So,
Okay.
Danny, thank you so much for giving me your time today.
Yeah.
What I'd be really interested in, considering how long you've been in the game for, obviously knowing you since school, and even then you were in martial arts. Can you just explain a bit about your story? And
Yeah. I started martial arts from when I was born. My father did karate growing up. Used to teach in Woolwich. And then myself and my brother, from when we were born, were around training for our whole lives. We transitioned into kickboxing later on. And then eventually we opened our academy, Dell's Fitness Centre, back in the day, almost 20 years ago now. MMA and then Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when we opened that gym. So, and from then on, it's just been like me and Jiu Jitsu is just like melded together. That's my passion. I love Jiu Jitsu. So yeah, from there, that's it.
one thing from a health perspective, with martial arts, I'd say boxing included, definitely jiu-jitsu, karate, kickboxing, it seems that it requires not just a metamorphosis of someone's skill set, but also their lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think, especially for jiu-jitsu, where it's a very cerebral sport, people become obsessed with it. They think about it even when they go home. Oh, I could have done this move. I could have done that better. They're always trying to improve. And part of that is then improving the rest of their lifestyle as well. Because they want to do better on the mats, their eating habits change, their sleeping habits change, their recovery, everything, just to aid a hobby that becomes a lifestyle more than just a hobby, So
one thing which is very difficult when it comes to medicine or anything medical is that it's overly prescriptive, right? So, for example, a lot of osteopaths, physios, chiropractors, doctors will emphasize the prescription of advice. So you should be eating this, you should be taking this medicine, you should be doing this particular exercise, but there's no pull to it. There's no desire that's linked to it. But it sounds like with jiu-jitsu and other martial arts, there's a real pull to that person wanting to better themselves, and therefore diet, social circles, lifestyle, exercise, strength, it all comes into it.
Yeah. And what I think, because jiu-jitsu is a very much a learned sport.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that is, if someone goes to boxing, their very first boxing session, they can feel like a world champion. Someone holds the pads for them. Everyone feels like they can throw a punch. They can do well. Everyone's first lesson in jiu-jitsu is probably the worst lesson they're ever going to have. They'll probably get put up against a 12-year-old girl and get thrown around because they don't know the technique. So people are constantly trying to get better at jiu-jitsu because you have to learn it. You can't just be physically gifted at it naturally. Like, obviously some people are more like physically attributed to certain things, but everyone has to learn the technique. There's no like muscling through this or that,
and it's not a natural. It doesn't seem like a natural thing to a lot of people.
No, it's not. It's not.
One thing I've found is that there was no. So in learning movement, you have motor systems. So basically, programs that your nervous system has that relates to other movements. So, for example, a squat might lead to a jump. A lunge might lead to an overhead, like a jerk or something like that. Throwing a ball might lead to throwing a punch. But I found that with jiu-jitsu, there was very little existing skill set that I had, even after 8 years of boxing, that could relate to what I was trying to do or what you were telling me to do.
Yeah. It's completely different from anything that most people do,
Do you think that makes people think about their bodies differently?
I believe so, and especially when they first start training. A lot of people have never moved their body in the way that you have to for jiu-jitsu. So they discover a lot about themselves, about what they can and can't do. And then they obviously try to adapt to jiu-jitsu, so then they are able to move themselves a bit more as well, So I agree with that, yeah.
So there's a few assets that someone can carry on into a long, healthy life. Strength and mobility are two of them, as well as that cardiovascular fitness, but also cognition, so the ability to think or problem solve. And it seems like jiu-jitsu covers all of these bases quite aggressively out of necessity. Have you noticed that people coming into jiu-jitsu with existing health complaints can almost find that jiu-jitsu is almost part of their medicine. Have you noticed that people come in and they're very unfit, they're very stiff, they're very achy, and within a few months they start walking differently, their posture's different, they stop complaining about the same things that they were complaining about before?
Yeah, obviously every individual is different, and their ailments are different as well. But yeah, I believe so. I think especially if someone's not been training at all, just generally moving will help someone feel better in
Yep.
themselves. But yeah, I believe, like, I say that jiu-jitsu is involuntary yoga. You know, like you're stretching in different positions, sometimes in positions you don't want to move in, but like it does help you. It does help you for sure.
My friend called it murder yoga.
Murder yoga, yeah. All good names for it. But yeah, I think like we said, the positions you put yourself in sometimes are different positions. And you know, when you're working certain things, you know, like you're doing a spider guard where your legs are split open and things like that, and you're moving your hips, your mobility does naturally like improve.
Before we move on to mobility, what about the effect on people's minds? Because I know that we often in disciplines we separate psychology from biology, etc. But there's such an overlap, experientially, physiologically. Do you notice that, especially men who are arguably men are always advised to talk more, to spend more time socializing? Do you find that there's a benefit to people mentally as well from coming to jiu-jitsu?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in lots of different ways. So, one, you're put in very tough situations in jiu-jitsu. Like we might start with someone on your back, which is the worst position you can be in. You have to stay calm in that position and figure your way out of it. You can't panic. If you panic, you lose. So you're constantly forced into positions that are not ideal for you, um, and you have to learn to deal with that. So I think that it builds resilience a lot. I think just being around people, and probably every jiu-jitsu gym you go to, after you've gone through that tough experience with all those people in the class, you have like a bond with them.
Yes.
Unspoken bond, and you'll find that people just stay after class, have a chat for an hour. You know, so people get things off their chest, and
Yeah.
like you said, but about therapy and stuff, like it's doing it without them even knowing. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
you've got that community.
and making it self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So making rather than having to go to a counsellor or a psychotherapist, is making their mental health self-sufficient within their own community. There's two things which I thought were really interesting. One, you speak about resilience, which I think is a necessity, especially as life inevitably becomes more comfortable. People lose their resilience, so they need to almost dose themselves with tough things. And the other thing that you mentioned is that ability to problem solve, which obviously links in later life to the reduction of dementia and things like that as well. You also mentioned about the benefits of stretching and the problem that a lot of pain clinicians, osteopaths, physios, chiropractors, etc., some of the problem with their prescriptions is that they advise stretching without conditioning, so you don't lock in that mobility that you've gained. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, you get both.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of how you feel that at Studio Martial Arts in Gravesend that you're benefiting the community, and anything that you wanted to add in terms of?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and we're well known in the community already. I just love, me personally, I love to have an impact on people's lives. Like, it's more than any money could ever do for me in my life. Like, I love changing people's lives, and I constantly get it. People are like, oh, I feel so much better, or, you know, like things in their life have got better just from training, because their mindset changes. Like you said, their resilience changes. So for me, selfishly, my my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu. But I think just it's great for kids, it's great for adults, it's great for everyone, no matter what they've got going on in their life. Everyone can take something from jiu-jitsu. So I think, yeah, people should just give it a try, because it's changed my life, it's changed hundreds of people's lives that have stepped on these mats, or thousands even over the years. Same with kickboxing, same with MMA. I think getting out there, being with people in person, there is nothing better than that. And being in a community, we're a very welcoming gym. Not all gyms are like that. You've probably been around a few gyms that are not like that as well back in the day, but you know, we pride ourselves on that. welcoming everyone.
And just last question, big question. If more people in society were exposed to jiu-jitsu, how do you think that would affect society?
I think it would benefit society massively.
In what way?
I think jiu-jitsu, and with all fighting, it creates individual, like a sense of individual responsibility. Like you have to own your own actions. You have to, everything that you get in fighting, whether you win or lose, is something to do with you. If you're in a bad situation, you have to get yourself out. No one's going to help you. You have to figure it out. You have to do everything yourself. Whereas nowadays, I think people often blame things other than themselves for their problems, and that's why they're always stuck in the same position.
Yeah.
Rather than figuring a way out and getting themselves out of it. Obviously, sometimes, with problems in life, you need help as well.
Yes.
But it's got to start from you. And I think jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general helps with that.
And I think jiu-jitsu is always a good example of how when there is a problem, there are people to help you to solve it. So it's almost like a microcosm of how society could work a bit better. Yeah. One image that came to mind was how after a lot of the time, especially young boys, if they've got a problem with each other and they tough it out and they're sweating and they're red in the face, often they end up giving each other a hug and a handshake after.
Yeah.
Same thing after a jiu-jitsu match or a boxing match, that after you've roughed it out, you have, like you mentioned, untold respect for the other person.
Yeah. Because you've been through that shared experience.
Right. Yeah.
And you see that all the time, right? There's a heated rivalry in some match that's been hyped up.
Yes.
And afterwards they're like, oh, it's all respect and hugging and stuff, because they've shared that tough experience together, and only those two people have shared that together.
Which in some ways is the opposite of how, especially now, we have more interaction at a further distance, right? So we have maybe more interaction with politicians, with rivals, with people who have opposing views, but it's at a much greater distance. So then there's no resolution that's met. It's more like people chucking things over a fence blindly rather than actually meeting each other face to face in a shared experience.
I think the thing that separates jiu-jitsu that benefits most people, because no matter what age they are, is the fact that you can compete at a much older age.
Yeah.
Our eldest competitor here is in his mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you can still go out and compete nationally, internationally, means that people are always looking to optimize their health.
Yep.
Whereas, you're a young boxer or a footballer, they or any other sport, they generally have a shelf life, and then when they hit that end peak point, their whole life changes, and they're not training like an athlete anymore. They maybe go off the other end because they've had such an extreme life. Whereas, you can join jiu-jitsu at 40 and start competing at 45.
Yep.
And then you're trying to get that edge. So you want to eat better. You want to do everything the right way. And I think when you're more mature, you take that a bit more seriously than a 20-year-old who doesn't want to stretch or recover. So I think that's the difference between jiu-jitsu and a lot of other sports.
Yeah. Obviously we've got Chris here, is early 60s.
I think 63.
And he looks 20, 30 years younger than that. We've then got Gracie was how old when he was?
He was in his 90s, I think.
In his 90s,
right? I believe.
Right, and once again, it comes back to these people are exercising, problem solving, but then there's that social cohesion and that social pull, which is causing them to want to do better by themselves and by.
And I think with their kids as well. Like I'm 100% like this. Like myself and my son, like I love training with my son, and I want to do that for as long as possible.
Yep.
So I want to be in as good a shape as I can, so I can always do that. Like he's 7 at the moment, but there's a guy, Hodger Gracie, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu competitors ever. He still rolls with his father, and I see the videos, and I'm like, that's what I want to be one day.
There's something as well about older mixing with younger. Right? In a sense, I know that, so there's a lot of around the world there are blue zones where you're more likely to reach the age of over 100.
Yeah.
So there's 2 big factors which relate to jiu-jitsu. One is that they live on hills, so they're pushing their strength like you'd push your strength at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
2 is there's real social cohesion, but not just social cohesion in terms of people being well supported by each other. The elder members of the community mix with the younger members of the community as well.
Yeah.
And does that come back to, we've had these conversations before about almost tribalism in society, opposing views, but also those opposing views can be the old thinking that youth is wasted on the young thinking that the elders don't understand.
Yeah.
But then there seems to be, especially in jiu-jitsu, I learned so much from people who are 30 years older than me.
Yeah.
There's a respect for their wisdom, a respect for their skill set.
Yeah, I agree, and the respect as well goes a long way to helping them train, because you can't have a 20-year-old
Yes.
rolling with a 60-year-old going full on.
Right.
You have to take into consideration their age.
Interesting.
And bring yourself to the same level so that you can have a good spar, but no one's getting hurt, no one's getting injured, but you're both working.
So it's almost like this unsaid contract
Yeah.
of like, I respect your wisdom,
Yeah.
I respect you for your vitality, and then you meet in the middle, and both sides learn a lot in different ways.
Yeah.
Amazing. Appreciate your time today. I think just from a health perspective, we've mentioned the benefits to mental health, shared experience, social cohesion, as well as that problem solving, the cognitive benefits of jiu-jitsu. But from a joint perspective and a physical perspective, you're building a robust support system around your joints by benefiting or strengthening the muscular system, the ligamentous system. And the other thing is the cartilage in your joints, it acts like a sponge. So as you're rolling or as you're exercising in general, but especially with a high range of motion, intense sport like jiu-jitsu, you're pumping the cartilage and you're starting to free itself up from metabolites and toxins to enable fresh liquid to come in. So when it comes to sports like jiu-jitsu, if you do it right, which under the guidance of coaches like Danny, Neto, and everyone else here, you will be introduced into a very gradual introduction into a sport, which could massively benefit your mind, body, and spirit. So I appreciate your time, Danny. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
If you've enjoyed today's podcast, feel free to click like and subscribe and message us. Let us know what you would like us to record as content matter for the upcoming podcasts. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Elliot Reed, osteopath and founder of the Revitalize Clinic.